Composition in functions. Before going to start composition in functions, we have to recall about the nested function. What is meant by nested function? A function within another function. That is, this is a function which is nested in between another function. This is called a nested function. Why I put brackets like this? Because you already know that a function must have parenthesis bracket. So there is another function which is present in between the brackets. So they are called as nested function. It should be recalled. Okay. First of all, the value returned by a function may be used as an argument for another function in a dash manner, nested manner. When a value returned by a function is used as an argument for another function in a nested manner, then it is called composition in functions. That is, you already know that function should return a value. Every function should return a value. Here we are not at all having void functions. You already know that in C++ void functions returns nothing. But here all functions return a value. So the value is passed as an argument to another function. That is, the answer is passed as the value for another function. Why it passes the value for another function? Because it is stored in a nested manner. It is stored in a nested manner. This nested manner concept is called what? Composition. So what is meant by composition? The question will be like this. What is meant by composition? A composition is nothing but a function return an argument to another function in a nested manner. This concept is called composition. There is an example. I hope you can understand better on seeing the example. There is a function which is called as EVAL. That is the short form of evaluate. What is meant by evaluate? We have to process. Okay. So there is another function, input. You already know that input is a function which is used to get the value from the user. So the value is received by using input function from the user, and that value is passed to evaluate function. Then only the value passes to the variable n1. You already know that n1 equal to evaluate. Okay. What is equal symbol here? It is nothing but assignment operator. It assigns value from right to left. Okay. So the rightmost, in right side we are having two functions. One is input, another one is evaluate. So which got the highest priority? The rightmost got the highest priority. So the input function executes first. It submits the value to evaluate. Now the evaluate function evaluates, calculates the value, and then produces the answer to the variable given. That is the process from right side to left side it move on. Whenever we execute this program, n1 equal to evaluate input enter a number. This is the statement given. So the first line shown is enter a number. The user entered a number as 234. Okay. So the user enters the number 234. It moves on to evaluate, and then it moves to n1. Now the value of n1 is 234. That is why here simply n1 is given, the value 234 is written here. Okay, in our second example, kindly note the point. There is a concept given, evaluate, input, enter an arithmetic expression. So you already know that what is given inside the quotation, it displays as it is. Enter an arithmetic expression. Here the user enters the value as 12.0 12.0 plus 13.0 into 2. Okay, into 2. So 12.0 plus 13.0 into 2. It completes all the expression, that is, it calculates the expression and produces the answer to n2 because there is a function named evaluate. Okay, so what is the answer? Thirteen, 12, 25 into 2. So the answer should be 50. This is a wrong concept. I hope you all did this. Okay, but you already know that precedence of operators. What is meant by precedence? The priority given to the operators, which means multiplication got the highest priority. So 13 into 2, 26. Okay, so it performs multiplication first, and then 26 plus 12, 38. Okay, that is why the result is given as 38.0. Okay, so based on precedence of operators, the multiplication got the highest priority than addition. That is why the first process is 13 into 2. And then it adds the answer with 12. Okay. Next we move on to recursive function. Already we know that what is meant by recursion? A function which calls itself is called a recursive functions. A function which calls itself is known as recursion. Recursion works like a loop. It is also just like a loop. But it takes more sense to use the recursion than loop. For each and every time the loop activates whenever the condition is true. But here in recursion, it won't check for the condition. That is the main difference between loop and recursion. For every time the loop checks the condition. If the condition is true, it will move on to the statement. But in recursion, there will be no condition. Whenever a function calls itself, immediately it executes without checking any condition. Okay, that is the main difference between a recursion function than loop. Overview of how recursive function works. First thing, the recursive function is called by some external code. What is meant by external code? A function can call itself by using an external code, not inside. It calls outside. In the base condition is met, that is, if the base condition is met, then the program gives meaningful output. What is meant by based condition? The function should be mentioned in a proper manner. Okay. Otherwise, it repeats again and again without any endpoint. Otherwise, function do some required processing and then calls itself to continue the recursion. Suppose it calls again and again and again. What happens? The program will not coming to end. This thing happens in recursion function. That is why if the program gives meaningful, then it executes. Otherwise it won't execute, or it executes again and again. Next thing, a small example given in your book, but please make a note of it. Kindly note this. These two statements are mentioned wrong in our book. Okay, so kindly correct the statement. That is, though these two print statements are also written as indented, it should be come out of indentation. Okay, it should be come straight to function definition. Here, fact of 0. The program directly starts from print statement because def is said to be as a function. It executes whenever we call. So the program straightly comes to print statement. Here print fact of 0. Already we saw that it is one kind of composition. Why it is said as composition? Fact is a function and print is also a function. So it is being as a composition. Okay. Fact of 0. Now the function is called by using the name. Here also the name fact is given. How many parameter? One parameter. Here also one parameter. All the things are matched, so it is said to be as best match. So directly to moves to the place where we defined. Okay, by taking the value 0. The first statement is executing. It takes the value and stores the value in n. So the value of n is 0 now. Okay, it move on to first statement. That is, if n exactly equal to 0, then return 1. I think we are passing the value 0, so it directly matches with the statement. So the condition is true. Now it returns the value 1 to the function. So simply the program gets terminated and prints the output as 1. The next line is going to execute the same function fact 5. Now the value of 5 is moving to the variable n. So now n is storing the value as 5. N is not equal to 0. So if statement will not execute. Directly the control moves to else statement. Here return n and also fact of n minus 1. A function which calls itself again. This is called a recursion. How many times it calls? Whenever it reaches 0, which means each and every time it reduces the value by 1. So 5 minus 1 and then 4 minus 1 and then 3 minus 1. Likewise again and again it executes. Whenever it reaches the value 0, it returns 1. So a function which calls itself is known as a recursion function. This program is executed by using Python coding, and I will show you.